in Ramadan, I asked you something related because I remember you mentioning that there were some girls who actually admitted to you that
Yeah.
they were not fasting in Ramadan.
Yeah.
And their parents didn't know.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
They were pretending to fast.
Yeah.
And so I asked you in Ramadan, you know, if a mother has a teenage son and she suspects that he is eating, right, secretly, and he's not really fasting, then how would you advise that she approaches it? And
I don't remember what I said.
You don't remember, but it was great. I wrote it down because it was so powerful, mashallah. You said, one of the things you said was, and I knew that by phoning you, I would get a wise answer, mashallah, because I think in those type of situations, it's so easy, right, to fly off the handle.
Yes.
Especially when the child is an adult, Islamically an adult now.
Yes.
And especially when you've spent all those years nurturing them, they know better, yeah? So they know about Ramadan.
Oh, yes.
They've practiced, they know. It's just, it's either a suspicion or a reality that they are not fasting, right?
Yeah.
And you said to me, well, the first advice you'd give is to stay calm.
Yeah.
And that's essential.
Yes.
And to kind of extract yourself from the situation for a while. And I love that because we need to think. We need time to think because the damage that could be done in that situation,
irreversible,
could be so huge that the problem that you think you have would pale into insignificance, right?
Yeah.
If you were to handle the situation in the wrong way.
Yeah.
And you said to extract yourself, and then you said come back to the situation with curiosity. And an example you gave was like asking your child, you know, there's this situation where, you know, a parent has a problem with their child who's not fasting. It seems like they're finding it too hard or whatever. Like, what do you have any friends like that? Like, what advice would you give a parent like that?
Yeah.
In that situation?
I remember that, yeah.
And then you said, you'd ask them, what advice would you give the teen who's going through that? So instead of this kind of accusation type scenario where that's it, it's all over, you know, and that kind of thing, you were advising to approach it in that way.
And I advised that way because I'd used that method with one of my teens when they had done something they shouldn't be doing as an adult, as an Islamic adult. And yes, I could have flown off the handle.
Yeah.
My Nigerian self wanted to fly off the handle. But I realized
one day you have to come back and we want to talk about Nigerian culture. And
I just knew that I wanted to. What's the purpose here? Is it for me to discipline them? Is it for me to put them down? Is it for me to tell them how bad they were? Or is it for me to actually create a connection so that this does not repeat itself, so that we can ensure that we can work towards this not repeating itself, right? And how can I appear, how can I show up in a way that will foster that connection, that will allow us to talk in a way that we can ensure that we can work towards it not repeating itself, right? So I knew that if I was flying off the handle, what's going to happen? War's going to go up and there's going to be no communication. They're not going to tell me anything. I'm just going to be ranting and raving, and they're probably just going to do the same thing, but better in secret. Because that's generally what happens, right?
It's counterproductive.
Kids just get better at hiding it, right? They will just get rid of all evidence and just get really good. But if that's what you want, carry on, you know. But often that's not what we want. What we want is to be able to talk to them, to help them, to understand. And so that's why I said, you know, come from a place of curiosity. But also, if you kind of separate yourself and make it a third person, like it's a story, then it's not like
confrontational.
It's not confrontational. Yeah. We're talking about someone else's issues, which is actually your issue, but we're talking about it from a third person, like a distance, so it doesn't feel so threatening. So even the child,
and it makes you think.
Right.
It would make them think about their own situation. Probably.
Yeah, and with my teen, it did. It really did make them think, because they first of all, they said, you know, they explained the reality of what the teen was going through, because it was a perspective that the adult hadn't considered. Oh, but and this could have happened, and this could have been the reason, blah, blah, blah. And so what advice would you give to the teen? Well, I'd probably tell them this. They're just self-advising. You know? And that's more powerful because that comes from their own realizations than you lecturing that just goes,
right.